So just so you're aware, this is being recorded and will be shared on the First Nations Technology Council website. They have a whole stream in series, so this is not the only webinar that's posted there, so I encourage you to go check them out afterwards. All right, good morning. My name is Selena Dorme, and I'm the Manager of Engagement Capacity with the First Nations Public Service Secretariat. I'm also a member of the Tsleil-Waututh Nation in North Vancouver, and I'm joining you today from our offices in West Van on the unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. This webinar is brought to you also in partnership with the First Nations Technology Council and with Zandra Ross, who you can see in our coffee cup today. Today's webinar, we're going to be talking about community engagement, best practices in a COVID world, and we're going to share some of the cool little technology tips and tricks that Zandra has to share with you today. Again, this webinar is being recorded and will be available on the FNTC Stream and website, where there are a number of other stream and webinars that are part of this series. So we encourage you to go check that out. We will share that in the link below. We do have another friend of ours. Her name is Camila Sanchez, and she's hiding out in the background and will be supporting some of the Q&A throughout the webinar. So I'm going to stop yapping and hand it on over to Zandra Ross. Thanks.
Right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to my coffee cup. Hope that you're all doing well. I'm so pleased that you're here. My name is Zandra Ross. My maiden name is Wycott. I am originally from the Williams Lake First Nation, or as many of you knew from previous years, the Williams Lake Indian Band, but we have rebranded and are stepping into 2021 and our community development. So I'm super excited to be here. My background, I've been working in our communities for the past, you know how you used to get excited about talking about how long you'd done stuff, and then all of a sudden you hit that birthday and you go, holy smokes, I've been doing this for about 28 years. I'm just going to start telling stories next year and say I don't know what I'm doing, and I've only been doing this for 8 years. Anybody with me? But the great thing is I've been able to work throughout really throughout mainly BC and Alberta for the past 28 years, but I've also worked internationally in the Philippines with Indigenous people. What is my background? I am a facilitator. I am a leadership and a mindset coach. But really at the end of the day, what I love to do is help our communities and our people be able to dream again. Because all of us know there's so many things that have happened in our history, in our life, you know, that have taken away some of our hopes and our dreams and being able to dream. And so that's really what I like to spread about the world. And that's some of the fun that we're going to be showing you today. My background is in community engagement and community development. So it's really about figuring out what do we need to bring back into our communities to bring that energy, that joy, and that vision that we know is so much a part of our communities and that is there now. So we're going to be speaking to you today about community engagement best practices in a COVID world. Also, as I mentioned, I am from Williams Lake, but I have been so honored to call for the majority of the past 28 years, the unceded territory of the Lheidli people, my home in Prince George. So that's where my lovely cozy coffee cup is happening from right now. And as we mentioned, not to worry, this will be recorded. So this will be placed on the First Nations Public Service Secretariat website, I believe, and the First Nations Technology website. And if you, as well as the slides. So you won't get my beautiful face in the slides, but you'll be able to see the backgrounds that we've used. And I'm going to be showing you a couple things. This isn't the only amazing amount of time that we're going to be spending together having a little bit of coffee. All right, consider a coffee talk. So let's get down to business. Thank you, all of you, for showing up, because we know that you have a ton of stuff to do and you can't just hang around all day listening to webinars. So thanks for being here today. All righty, and don't worry about it. What is this about? This is finding ways to engage our people in a bit more enjoyable way, but also in a more impactful way. Because you know right now with technology, with Netflix, with Amazon Video, with all of these different types of things, right? Webinars, all of the Zooms, the million Zooms a day that you're on, you know that it gets harder and harder to capture people's attention when we really need to engage them. I remember back in the 90s when we started doing engagement, it's like, let's engage everybody on every every single topic until people stopped engaging with us because they were like, are you kidding me? You can't engage me on everything. So that's what we're really going to try to talk about today, are some really specific engagement strategies for you. And wonderful, thank you. I know there's so many people online. I'm going to have people monitoring our chat, so please. And I know that Julia and Selena will be monitoring the chat. So if there's any questions, please do not hesitate to drop them in there. And we're going to get on with this, my friends. So thanks for joining. So as I said, my name is Zandra Ross. I am a registered professional trainer. So what does that mean? I get paid to talk for a living, which is wonderful. My mom always wished that for me when I was a child, burning up a storm at the table. She said, I sure hope somebody pays you to talk one day. Thankfully, in this world, there's opportunities for even us hyperactive attention deficit disorder kids. So it's an exciting time. And as well, I'm also a certified professional coach with Erickson College. So what's our agenda today? Learning my different things. What's our agenda today? We have three kind of topics we're going to be speaking to. We're going to be talking about the 6 key questions to unlock awesome community engagement. All right. Number 2, we're going to give you, because we don't want to leave you high and dry and just go, oh, like a school book, this is how you do it. But then it doesn't tell you how to do it. So we're going to give you some strategies. People, we'll try to tell you a little bit. I think Camila is sharing a little bit of our technology behind the scenes, how you do this. But again, that I think we'll be doing something even for ourselves. We'll do a video on how you do these kinds of things. So it might be a webinar for another day, but I'm sure we'll have some ideas for you how you do these things. And honestly, somebody said, is it really expensive? Well, to be honest with you, it's free. Shh, don't tell everyone my secrets. We don't want to be sharing those trade secrets with everyone, but you know how that goes. Sometimes it's kind of nice. And then finally, we'll have time for frequently asked questions. Our goal is to be brief and be bright and get you on your way again. So we want to make sure that these webinars are super useful for you. All righty, I'm going to show you and move you back to my next one, because you know what? Wouldn't be fun without hanging out with you guys on the fence post. Do you see what I did there? This wasn't super fancy. We kind of left this transition because we wanted to show you this isn't all super magic. It looks magical though, doesn't it? You know, you want to hang out. We were joking. I said, if anybody remembers that show back from the, gosh, I'm showing my age again, the 90s, Tim the Toolman Taylor, I can be Wilson on the fence. But what is this? It's just a more fun way to keep people's attention on the screen. Home improvement. Thank you, Selena. My brain went for that showing my age again, but home improvement, right? This is a lot of the fun stuff that you can do. This is slide presentation, my friends. So we're going to talk a little bit about engagement. So what are some 6 key questions to unlock awesome community engagement? We'll be helping you with that today. So let's take a look. I got to do the opposite way because it's the opposite way of doing things. Where are we at? What are your 6 key questions that you want to ask yourself? All righty. Key one, check yourself. What do we mean by that? We'll touch base on each one of these. Okay. Don't worry about it. Key number 2, ask yourself. These are the questions that you want to engage. Why are you engaging? Key number 3, how are you doing it? Number 4, who needs to be involved? Number 5, what resources do you need? And number 6, how do you measure success, right? So these are going to go, we're going to pop through each one of these today and give you a little bit more of a background, what we mean for each one. All right. And like we said, don't worry about it. We can provide more notes if you find that you want to rewatch this. This will be recorded. So thank you. All righty, and I'm going to show you another thing, because you know what? It's boring to see yourself in that little tiny screen at the top of your, or at the side of your thing. So I like to be a part of it because I talk with my hands a lot. I always tell people I am an unfulfilled actor, so me being on stage is a lot of fun for me. But you know what? Staring at that little tiny version of me in the screen, it's hard. And when I think about our elders, I'm just starting to wear glasses. I'm becoming that junior elder, maybe. It's hard for me to see those people. And I know there's so much expression, you know, that facial expression. conveys so much emotion to about what we're saying, the importance of what we're saying. So the more people can see your beautiful faces, the better, the more engaging it's going to be. And, you know, we talk about it. Scroll stopping is what we call it on Facebook and Instagram and social media, where it actually makes you go, hey, what was that? Right? And for each one of you, it's going to be something different. But if you see something weird and wonderful happening on your screen sometimes, that's the thing that's going to make you go, what is this thing? I need to engage more. I want to ask how they did it. I'm going to stick around because this looks pretty cool. I don't know what she's doing. I've never seen this before. Right? So those are some ways that we can really start to tune in. And that's why we're showing you some of these fun tools today. Alrighty. So let's dig into this first one. So we call it check yourself. First question, right? Before you start the process of community engagement, check in with yourself. Because a lot of times, especially too, if there's funding, let's go engage, right? Anybody remembers comprehensive community planning is a wonderful thing, but in the early days, we had no idea. And people were we got hired lots to go out and engage people, but then not really have specific reasons. It was just, oh, we've got this funding, let's go engage. And then we weren't great at it, right? We were, okay, we'll do door-to-door surveys and these types of things, which is okay. But there's so many more ways. And really, when you truly want to have impact and engagement in your communities, you want to be engaging in 3, 5, 8 different ways. That's the thing. People say, what's your best method of engagement? I want to know what your best methods of engagement, because as we know, there's a lot about the stages of learning and the styles of learning, but just the way that we take in information. Some people go, Zandra, just send me the PowerPoint slides. That's why some of you are asking, you're busy, you're doing 3 other things. You want the notes. We got them, don't worry, right? That's how I am. I like that concrete. We were joking, they were listening to me, hearing one of my videos play at times too. Well, that's how I take in information. At that one time, I start listening, my attention goes other places. So that's all I say. Really start to ask yourself, why are you engaging? And we'll ask you a few more questions, but that's the first one. Ask yourself, what's the benefit to the engagement? Okay, to the community, sorry. What's already been done? You know, we have tons of information that is in our archives somewhere. That's why, you know, information technology is so important right now, to be able to manage that and be able to access it and use keywords to be able to, instead of us sorting through books and books, to be able to type in traditional language and be able to have every document that we've brought up be pulled up for us. So really being able to look at what historical issues are at play. Is this a polarizing topic, right? Have we had problems with this before? This is also a great place to check into your corporate knowledge. I'm a new administrator. I'm new to the community, maybe even, right? I'm not too sure. I'm going to do my best. But there's a great place to start. What's already been done? What are the historical issues? We'll be talking about some of our projects that we've worked on, and some of the things that really taught us that. One of the, we'll highlight is one of the COMOCs. I won't go into great detail, but just to explain to you one of the treaty projects that we did and how not knowing and not asking the really important questions until the end made me go, oh my gosh, and it was such a simple question. So you really need to check in. Why are we engaging? What do we do? What do we want to know? What is the information that we already have to get from people, so that that we're not asking the same question over and over again. And our people are going, when are you ever going to listen to us? We've told you this 25 times. So really making sure we do our homework before we get into it. Okay. And then as always, make what considerations need to be made for the COVID world, right? Are we in person? That's why we're doing these. It's to make it accessible. But honestly, I think this is a great way for us to be connected and get information out in a low cost way to a greater audience. Allow people to be able to take it in as they need it, instead of it being at somebody else's schedule, and taking away a lot of dollars for us to travel out of our communities and away from the day-to-day. Yes, there is benefit to getting you out for education and things like that too. But when we can get this quick information, cutting edge information to people, it can be life-changing, right? And the other thing that you really want to ask yourself that we didn't have there, but what's your time frame? right? And those are some other questions even prior to this, but what's your time frame? Do you need a quick decision? Do you have time, right? When we do treaty work, we have a little bit longer of a time frame than when we have to make a COVID-related emergency protocol, right? We may not have time to go and engage everybody. Is this a referendum where we want to run this for months or weeks to get, or do we have an emergency in the community that needs to be addressed? So, right, those are some things to think about. What is it? Also, do you have the budget for community engagement? What does that look like? Really do your homework. Don't be scared. Don't just jump in and go, well, they want us to do engagement. I guess we have to do it. We have to start putting a bit of pushback sometimes on our funders to say, wait a minute, we can't do what you're asking us. The time frame is too short. The budget isn't in alignment with what we want to do. It's amazing when we just start using our words and what our community needs are, how amazing funders can be. And I think there's going to be a lot more of that flexibility coming down and explaining. Okay, so just really thinking about that, what your needs are, doing your budget. And what I tell people, do your dream budget, everything. Oh, we'd love to have a professional videographer here, and we'd love to have this, we'd love. But then also, what's my drop dead budget? What is the minimum budget that I need to still be able to get quality information from my community or from whoever I'm engaging with? All right. And then finally, another question: does the community have the decision-making power? Be honest with yourself to shape the outcome, because that's what can get our community members so frustrated. And is when we go and ask their opinion, but then nothing really ever happens. Right? It's just, well, why did you ask me? And it's always good intentions, because we go, well, we needed the info. And we'll be speaking about another project that we worked on, a homelessness initiative that we just did earlier at the beginning of this year. And just really trying to be how we were realistic with the participants about what we as facilitators were able to create and what the next steps were for the information was. So that's a really important part, is what are you going to do with this info, and let people know right off the bat. All right. So some amazing details there for you to have a look at. And like I said, anybody's interested, we've got some note slides too. So sometimes I'm a junkie like that. I like all the data. So if that's something you'd like, please just drop it in the notes as well. And we may not post them on the website, but maybe if anyone's interested, we can get them messaged out to you. We'll figure it out here shortly. So just let us know if you like those reading notes as well. All right. Number 2. We talked a little bit about this. Why are you engaging? Okay, so you really need to start to ask yourself, what are the engagement goals? Okay, thank you. And not to overwhelm anybody, but even if we can clean these up and we can just make it as a Word document, Camila, we can ship that over as well. So before we start, it is so important to have clear goals in mind before you start your engagement process. Before you eat, like, it's part of your strategic planning process. That's what I like to say. Anything that you want to undertake, you guys know the saying, what is it? 5 minutes of planning. I know my math, I'm not a mathematician. 5 minutes of planning or 1 minute of planning saves you, 2 hours in execution or something, whatever those sayings. That's not one of my specialties. But you know the truth. You write a grocery list before you go to the grocery store. There's more likely you're going to get the healthy and good foods that you need and not buy the Doritos and chocolate bars like me, or end up with a stack of magazines because I forgot that I had to get food, right? Doing that little bit of planning saves money, saves time, saves frustration, and really can help you get good ideas from other people. I used to be the type I have to do it all myself. No, when I start planning in advance and start asking people, you can start to reach out and say, how did you guys do that? I really like that information. How did you make that? How did you appear in your slide presentation like this? Right? So we'll be giving you some strategies along the way, but the more you start that planning process in advance, the more successful any process, project, procedure that you have to undertake is going to be. Okay. Next question, ask yourself, what are the possible outcomes? Good and bad. Nothing happens. The government gets really excited and goes, get down to business. And we want a full proposal. Oh, right. Nothing, right? There's a spectrum of activity. So you need to think about it. What are we going to do with this info? How is it going to help our community? All right. And I love this. Opportunity to influence a changed state equals authentic engagement. So when we just engage people for the sake of engaging, You know, it's happened to you before. You get frustrated. You go, why bother coming to me to ask me my opinion if you were just going to make your own decision? It's almost like being a little kid again. Think about it when our parents, right? I look back to, but life. But if you think that's where a lot of our community members are going, why did you even bother to waste my time asking when you already knew the outcome? Or when you knew I wouldn't have anything to say? But if we let them know, you know what? We're trying to submit a proposal right now. There's a big chunk of money, and community members get this stuff. Lay it out in your introduction. There's potentially a big chunk of money. We don't know what that's going to look like right now, but we'd like to engage you to see what that proposal might look like. We can't guarantee we're going to get the money. Community, oh, okay, no problem. They're not going to start burning up your line going, so when's the project start? So when's the project start? You're going to be able to give them a realistic and say, oh, remember, we're working on it. Now we're in the proposal stage. And we go from there. So really just giving people that ability to know that they're going to be able to do this, okay, on their own. So already think about too, what else have you done in the community? How was it received? Did you use external facilitators, right? Did you use internal facilitators? We'll be talking about the facilitation we've done, and I've done a lot of treaty engagement, but also training of the engagement team. So I worked in it where I was hired as a person to come in and do the engagement for the community. What you and I all know works better is when it's the community members doing the engagement in a safe way, giving them the skills that they need. Because a lot of people go, yeah, right, as if I'd go talk about treaty in my community. That's what a lot of our people. But we'll talk about that. When you give people the right tools, when they have a really clear reason of why they're engaging, of that there may be a neutral way, right? And we'll talk about what types of information you're going to get from people. But knowing that your community engagement team, your outreach is just looking to get information. So we actually trained community members to go out and get information rather than us as outsiders and strangers to do it, if that makes sense to you. So I think it's extremely important. And I think you have the ability. I don't want to knock us consultants, but hey, communities have all the power. You've been here. And if we can provide that support to you, then great. That's what our wonderful provincial organizations are as well, is to give us some of those on the ground skills so that we are in control of our technology, of our dreams, of our goals, of our progress, and not constantly have to be waiting on somebody else to guide us through. Okay. Also asking yourself, what are the important decisions that need to be made? What are the important outcomes that you need? I need to get a report. I need to have, even for these things, when you have funders, we need to try to make some target numbers. We need to have a certain amount of webinars done, right? So that we make sure that we meet our goals for the engagement process. Because in some ways, this is an engagement process, right? We're putting on these webinars. We're checking in to see how many people are tuning in every day. Because if there's not, then both of the funding organization, I go, maybe this isn't the best way. And they're going to reach out and say, what's the best way to get this info to you? Did you enjoy this? Is this valuable? So we really appreciate the feedback that you give us in the chat box. Any that you forward, we are so open to that feedback from you to let us know what is the next topic that you need. But also, how was the quality? How was the quantity? Did you feel like I was on ×2 talking? I try not to, but sometimes that happens. So it's really great. We're also keeping in mind, we have people with different education levels, literacy levels, at all different levels of the organization, different job positions, different interest levels. You may be like, come on, this doesn't interest me. Move on to key 3, key 5. That's what I'm here for. So just really being aware too of what information, when you have a consultation session or an engagement session, does everybody need to be there? We did a webinar last week where we had the first part more targeted towards everybody and the second more targeted to technical people. Why? You could stay for the whole thing, but we also didn't want to bore you, or knowing how busy you are, let you move on and just attend the part that you want to attend. So very important for us to really be clear about what it is that we want and what is going to work for our community. Okay. And then also being aware of what comes next in the information. What are we going to do with this data? All right. Key 3, how are you doing it? All right, so these are the different steps that that we kind of look at, right? So the different framework, and it's really the ones that you choose. This is where we said there's going to be different reasons for engaging, and it really depends. You may have a few of these, right? Depending on what the goals are of your session. So here's some of the different things that we talk about that you might be looking at. Okay, so the first one, looking at the first step. These are levels, they're not steps. Okay, so there's different levels of how much engagement that you want from people. And really, it's about providing factual, unbiased information as well, right? Engagement is really about people having total transparency. That's where the trust factor comes in. So don't worry about wearing your heart on your sleeve. I'm a big believer in that. A lot of us think that we have to be perfect and that we have to have everything. We have to have everything lined up as much as possible. But I think being authentic as well with people and letting them know that we don't know all the answers. I don't know how this is going to work out. Even today with the technology, there's certain things I'm getting used to pointing to the opposite way that I would normally point, right? Looking at lining myself up in the screen. We're all learning, everybody. So we need to be a little bit more gentle on ourselves. All right. So what are these different levels that are potentially out there? Okay. So one, there's informing. This is just, hey, everybody, hear what's happening. Yeah, here's what's going on. It could be a project update. A lot of times band meetings are like that, right? This is just what we have. This is what we're doing. Treaty meetings, we'll have them working with another community right now on their treaty strategy. And, there's a lot of updates. And that's what they said. We don't have anything. We don't know what to ask them. Then don't. Just give them information. Tell them what's happening. Okay. Next step or level. Sorry, I said it there. Next level, consult. Here are some options. What do you think? Right? So we can actually start to get them and just give it. And it might be 2 options. It might be 5 options, right? If it's usually more greater, then to me, that almost becomes a bit more of the next level, which is involve, where if we have a whole bunch of options and we may be wanting to look at the pros and cons of all of them, it's more than just A or B. It's, well, hey, man, we've got a problem here. What ideas do you have? We want to encourage you to put it out there. And you'd be amazed. We've done this for economic development, where we just went and sat in a community for 3 days in the community hall. And we had flip chart paper all over the walls, and each one had a topic: forestry, housing, blah, blah, blah. And we just had an open house for 3 days where people, this was pre-COVID, of course, where people just walked in and we facilitated discussion, and people were just able to look at other people's ideas, not also at their schedule, at their time frame, when they felt most with it. We had snacks for them, right? Not as bribery, make sure that their carb brain was operating at its best level. But a real way to do it. You can do it online as well. Again, we'll talk about that in a little bit later about the different strategies. So what are some ideas? Get the people involved. And there's different ways. Surveys, we'll talk about that later. Collaborate. Let's work together to solve this problem. Okay, this to me is a great one where, again, where we have we can, this is a spectrum, we can move over there too, where we go, and that's it. When you think about the levels, it can be a spectrum. You can have different pieces of these for different segments of your community, right? The elders may go, I don't want to, I don't have time. We've been to so many meetings. Just get me to the consult. I just want to make a vote on that. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Other people may be, hey, I'm a young person here. I'm just moved back to community. I've been in care for many years. I don't know what's going on. I want to be involved more. So don't worry about thinking that you have to just pick one. You don't. You decide what are the best things for your needs and your community. Next level, collaboration. Let's work together to solve this problem. But collaboration could also be, we need to bring more people. We need to bring other partners, maybe other nations, right, together, maybe other funding bodies. So how do we dig a little bit deeper? So, and I'll get back, I'm going to touch base on, so I got 2 sets of notes here that I'm trying to get, because I want to make sure we didn't want to jam it all onto slides for you. So I'm going to get back to this one. To inform. Really, it's not true community engagement though either. I missed that one. Thank you. It's a one-way flow of information, right? So just so you know, consult, it's the bare minimum, right? It's obtaining feedback with very little interaction. And it's also a lot of times where it's vote time, where we're making a decision on what we want to do. And then at the involve, we're working with the community throughout the process, or whoever our stakeholders are. It can be a one-time thing. It can be a long drawn out thing, or a more engaged. It can be a process versus a one-time shot. Then we move into collaboration. So this is, let's work together to solve this problem. It's involvement, but at the end of the day, whoever's collecting the information is still really is the holder of the information and the holder of the outcome. So with collaboration, this is, let's work together to solve this problem. Let's all be here so that we can do this as a group. And to me, that's a lot more hands-on. That's a lot about also dividing the work when you're collaborating. Involvement is usually me coming and doing the work for you, taking away the results. Collaboration is, okay, you're going to do this piece, I'm going to do that piece, and then we're going to meet back a week again and combine our superpowers. Right? So a lot more details, a lot more moving pieces with collaboration, and can take more time. So again, that question where we asked you, how much time do you have? What are the intentions of your engagement is going to really decide which one of these things that are going to fit with you. Okay. And it's very high interaction. It's too flow of information. It's useful for uncovering controversial issues as well, right? Where we can really start and realize, no, we don't have the answer here. That's why we're here, because we know a lot of issues, especially in talk. Well, you already have the decision. No, we're here to ask you because we don't know. We know this is a controversial topic. All right. So it's really great to get everybody involved, especially when you've got a big decision to make. Right? That's why we use treaty a lot. It's just been for the past 25 years, that's been a huge chunk of the work that I've done. And people say, oh, you must be pro-treaty. Actually, I'm pro-community engagement. So just so you know, all of what I'm telling you right now, if I'm using treaty as a lens, it's not necessarily because I'm saying treaty is the way to go. It's what I'm saying is because it was such a controversial, complex issue, it's a great lens to look at a lot of these things through. Economic development is another great thing to look at these lenses through when you look at a lot more of the more complicated issues. Saving our traditional languages, right? That isn't just, oh, well, do we put it in school? No, it takes more than just money and programs to save a language. It takes our elders, it takes our young people. We can put on programs, but if nobody's going to be there to participate in them, that is not going to save the language alone. So to me, that's a huge topic that we've done, worked with elders and things that we go in and engage with them and say, we can't just put on a program. How do we do this? How do we get the young people connected again? And then that final level would be empowering. Okay. So you care about this issue and are leading an initiative. How can we support you? So this is where you've got a group of community members who are running the community garden and have said, to heck with it. We waited long enough for funding. We're just going to go and do it. And so now myself as the administrator, I'm going, way to go, guys. Holy smokes. Well, we were going to help with that. We just didn't get to it. Don't worry about it. How can we help you? So now the engagement has come from this way, rather than us trying, getting information about how to solve the problem. We want to ask you, what support do you need to keep you doing what you're doing, which is solving the problem already. We don't have to be involved in that. So empowering is a huge thing, which to me is really where I want to get our communities to, where we aren't always waiting for, because again, I'm an urban member of my First Nation and I'm constantly, geez, I wonder when the band office is going to get on that. When really I can do things. And that's what I started doing at the beginning of the pandemic. It was like, how do I help our people? All of my in-person, I'm a facilitator, all my gigs got shut down. So I immediately back in, at the beginning of 2020, went hard into Zoom and I was doing weekly webinars free for anybody in our communities. And why? Because I didn't know what to do. People had, all my work had dried up, but I knew that communities still needed help. I knew that my community still needed help. So it was like, well, I'm just going to start doing these type of webinars. Was a lot more about mindset and about goal setting and managing, and how do we fight through this pandemic and still keep our goals in front of us? How do we keep, cultivating that fire in our communities, that dream, that vision? because so many people now are going, oh, well, why bother dreaming anymore? There's this COVID thing, just wait. And it's just not us, it's everyone. And my attitude is, honey, I'm going to be ready when this COVID thing is gone. That's why engagement is really important. Okay. Is that we need to put it out there and really start sharing our information, and don't wait for somebody else to go out and engage. If you have a question, go engage the VAD office, go engage your community members. You want to help the elders, go talk to the elders. What is it that they want and need? Don't wait. To me, that is the highest level of engagement, is when we empower our community members to get excited about their needs, wants, and goals, and that they start going, we need to do something about this. Okay, so these are super exciting. And just again, to give you some ideas about why are we consulting? What is it that we need? All right. So what are the methods that we're going to use to communicate? I kind of gave you a few, right? You can jump in and start doing some webinars like this. You guys know you've done a Zoom webinar where you've looked at doing virtual things. You learned a lot of techniques, and know that there's so many things about, to be able to do breakout rooms and things like that. So Zoom is an amazing tool. But we can still meet virtually and in person. There are social media, there are Facebook Live. So even for me, I am sending info, and we'll talk a little bit more about here. Oh yeah, okay, good. It's on my notes on this one. The StreamYard is what I do right now. So which is a tool that you can use. There's a free and there's a paid version. So what I do, instead of, I used to go, oh, I'm going to download this video from Zoom, and then I'm going to go save it, and I'm going to go put it on my Facebook page, my Instagram, my YouTube page, here, there, and everywhere. Well, now there's this thing called StreamYard where I can go live to every single one of them at the same time and hit a massive amount of people. Because much as we think, oh, Facebook Lives and things, there are a ton of the audience that are not on Facebook out there. So YouTube is a safer place because they don't like it. YouTube's a place so you can just go have a look, right? You can send people a link. So there's so much opportunities. We are going to be in person again, my friends. Some of you are in closed communities. You're still able to do in-person meetings. So there's still those opportunities. Socially distanced home visits. That's something we're working on, is doing a community health plan right now. And so we're doing a combination of Zoom sessions. We've called them open houses, but they're Zoom open houses where we got 4 questions. You can come in and see us if you want. You don't want to, you don't have to. We've got people that are going to be going out and doing socially distanced home visits where they're just going to talk to people through the door, or take a survey, help you fill out the survey if you don't want to fill it out yourself, or leave a survey with you. Automated phone calls, the good old phone tree, right? You guys know we're in an epidemic of, and it has been, I didn't hear about that. I didn't get the newsletter. Geez, nobody told me about that. So for me, when people ask me about engagement, how many ways do you engage? I go, how many ways are there? For me, I engage in all of these ways. So yes, you can choose 1 or 2 of them, but if you really want to get true engagement, if you really want to truly be able to stop people from going, I didn't get that, when really, they did, they just didn't bother to read it. You go, well, actually, and this is what we do, and we do heavy engagement. I get my team, you record every phone call, every message, every newsletter that you've dropped out, every interaction you've ever had with them. Why? Because we've been a part of where a person who avoided engagement in the treaty tried to come back and lodge a lawsuit saying you never engaged with me. And the one community worked with, that was the only thing that really saved them, is because we had kept such a copious amounts of notes of going, no, we have sent that. No mailed out packages got returned. They gave us their address on this date. We left 4 phone messages, and they went in, and it didn't even make it. We didn't even make it past discovery, because the lawyers went, what are you talking about? They've engaged with you more than anything. We actually got kudos for our engagement strategy because we tracked it so well. They were like, wow, we wish everyone would do it this way, because it can cover your butt, but it can also, any of those, what I like to call the drama llamas, the ones that like to constantly say that you didn't engage with me, I don't know what's happening, I don't agree with that. You get to say, oh, honey, we've engaged with you 13 times till Sunday, right? So you get to know that you did your job right, and you've got your check marks. You can engage on your website, and there's different ways. You can have, we talked a little bit about it in our web, you can have a link to a Survey Monkey, which is a tool where you can get feedback, continuous feedback from people. There are things called SpeakPipe. There's other tools that it's basically a voice messaging tool app that you can embed into your website so that your members can leave you a voice message to give you feedback. Some of you may be going, I don't want that, just joking. But you know what I mean? How do we make people feel engaged? And how do we realize that not everybody's a reader, not everybody's a listener, right? Not everybody's a talker. Okay, well, let's make sure that our engagement hits all of those learning styles, all of those engagement styles. Okay, because there's social media for some, but not for everybody. Some people like LinkedIn, right? That's another one that I tell people, you've got a lot of professional members, and people forget, I think, to go on LinkedIn. So we encourage them, have a LinkedIn strategy. Newsletters, you know them, whether they're paper-based or whether they're digitally based. I say have both. It's a great way to keep the corporate memory too, so you don't have to have 50,000 copies of paper lying around. You've all had your basements flood at your band office at some point, right? It's hard to keep these paper things. So if we can have a digital copy, some corporate memory, it makes it easier for us to research too. It's easier if we've got to go back and find data to have it digitally housed than to try to go dig through 10 years of old newsletters. All right, because you know how those smell too, terrible. And then finally, we mentioned it, focus groups, which is kind of what we're doing. I mentioned it doing the open house for one of the health plans that we're working on. It's really a focus group where we just want to get more input and more targeted information. But also so that no one say, well, geez, you couldn't engage me, there's COVID. Doesn't matter. We found a way to engage with you. So we're really just trying to figure out what are all the ways too that your community's members have said, well, that didn't work. Okay, what would work? So if you got a bunch of drama llamas, I like to call them, that just basically say what doesn't work in your community, I want you to ask them, how do you want to be engaged then? Well, I don't know, but not this way. Well, then we're going to just keep doing it this way. How do we do this? Okay. So there we go. And then finally, how are you going to choose your engagement tactics? Okay, so just really selecting and thinking about what are the tools that I want to use and what are the best case scenarios for me. Okay. And then another one too that we really love using is gamifying things. And what is that? So it may be, there's different apps that you can use. So what we do is when we do door prizes, we will use an actual virtual wheel, which has everybody's name on it. And I know a lot of you have used these things, and it'll spin around and it'll tell us, you know, that it'll draw the name for us. We have different things. That's why we kind of added some of these technology for you to show you some of the different ways that you can make your standard old presentations a little bit more exciting. Okay. And then the breakout groups, right? So we'll talk a little bit about the homelessness initiative that we did. That was really, we called them, it was a micro consulting session, and I'll talk about that. But breakout groups, and what I did instead of is I had several facilitators that were facilitating all of the breakout groups so that I could make sure I got the right info that I needed, and I didn't have to be in every single group. So just some different ways, right, to be able to engage your community members. And that really helped well for us to work in the breakout groups, StreamYard. Yes, you know it. And anything that you can do with icebreakers is really great. We know we have a short amount of time to do these things, but that's why we say is chitter chatter in the chat box. But anytime that you can add that and get people a little more comfortable and less silly. That's what I find. You know, our community members are so afraid of feeling silly in these types of things. And so for me, one of the ones, and I'll give you a one that I usually do is I go, okay, we're going to break you into breakout groups, but they're going to be, 5 to 6 people. And what I want you to do is to come up with a list of as many things as you all have in common. You go, what? Yeah, the 5 of you need to come up with a list of as many things as you have in common. So I'll give you a hint. You all breathe oxygen. Oh, why? Because it's not it's just, oh, you have eyes, I have eyes. Okay, right? Like it's a way for people just to really get engaged. And I'll only give 3 to 5 minutes, depending on your thing. Okay, so there's a little tool for you, but little easy ways. And people get anxious right away when you say the word icebreakers. But the more you can make it just, no, this is it, super fast. And it's really not about you having to do anything. It's just about ideas. So brainstorming activities is what I like to do. So just some little ways for you to think about of how to get that engagement going. And Google. If you want to know some ideas, the biggest thing is start to look at virtual team building games, virtual games. I've got icebreakers. I've got so much. That's been my last year, has been researching and taking online webinars about how to make these things more engaging. All right. And learning new strategies, because it does get tiring just looking at my talking head. All right. And here we go. Sorry, I missed that. I got excited and went ahead. But here were some of the tools that we just talked about. Zoom, and you had that webinar previously, and you can go back and check to it if you'd like some more details that was presented, and that'll be housed here on the First Nations Public Service Sector site, I believe. So what are some of those tools? Zoom, streaming virtual meetings to a variety of sites at the same time. StreamYard, just a summary of what I just told you. Gamifying virtual communication, such as using a virtual draw app for door prizes, right? People love it. And you guys all know you have your little, also your fun little video settings that you can use in Zoom, where you can go and use your lovely little face filters and things, right? To show them that you have, you know, some eyebrows, or you can darken those eyebrows and things like that, right? There you go. Just got my face done. Why? It's amazing because it makes people go, what did you just do? That's what I find people. And when I've got a long workshop going, not today, you won't see them, I will surprise it and I'll go, anybody, I got a contest. What's changed about me? And I'll get them to do a little icebreaker where they'll look and they'll be going, what are you talking about? I have to be more subtle this time, but usually I'll have big giant eyebrows. And for the quietest people, our people are competitive, right? So, and I love it. So a lot of that is out there, but everybody likes it, right? And I talk a lot about our communities, but you know, this is for every organization, business, for-profit, nonprofit out there. Again, it's through our lens that we share this information, but to me, this is the information that we bring everywhere. This is our calling card when we work with anybody in community engagement. All right. Breakout groups, surveys, and polls. You can also do that within Zoom. You can link them as well, right? Within the chat box. Say you're having a session, you can have an assessment link where you go, hey, everybody, we'd like to get your feedback about this session, which is what we did with the homelessness forum, where they could go immediately click on the link in the chat box and go give us feedback in SurveyMonkey. So we were getting real-time feedback about how the sessions were going. It was awesome. And we could make those kind of like the chat box now, where we can make those adjustments as we need to, right? This is a brand new presentation for us. So we've done things, but we kind of revamped this. So the feedback we get from you is going to be invaluable to making our next presentation more valuable. All right. Key number 4, who needs to be involved? Okay, this is the next part of what you're doing. So internally, you need to look at 2 parts of it, internal and external. Okay, so internally, who's going to be your key person in this? Who is your champion, is what we like to call it, because the champion isn't necessarily going to do all the work either. They may be just the person who's holding the pen, like we call it, to the report. They're the person who's kind of like, okay, this is my priority. They may be the person who's going to carry out the work. They may not be, right? But it's the person who really, I think, who the engagement is vital to. It might be their program, it might be their position, but they're the ones who really need to get the content back. All right. So who's doing the outreach, even virtually? So is it going to be done by consultants? External? Is it going to be done by our team, our staff? Is it going to be done by our elders group? Is it going to be done by our youth group, our volunteers? Because we've got an employment program, and that's what we want, is we're grooming our future leaders. So, right, a bunch of different people that can help, but also who has the technology, right? So who understands all of this stuff? Because a lot of times some of you are going, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? Well, that's what's great. Why I partnered up with Camila, because Camila is young, full of energy, ideas. She has so many great things that she's bringing to the table. She's university educated. I'm a lot self-taught. I'm old school, man. I've been learning all this. But really what the cool thing is, we united both of our superpowers today, and we've been able to teach each other a whole bunch of stuff together. So creating what you see before you, it was a joint effort. So look out to your young people. You'd be surprised. Those ones that are doing cool things, go check out their TikTok. You'd be amazed at the technological capacity within your organizations and your communities right now to be able to help support it. But it's also, like I said, a great thing. You've got summer students and you know what to do with them. Get them engaged in engaging people, right? Asking questions. Everyone wants a youth group. Can you go out and talk to some youth and ask them what that would look like? How often should it be? Where should we hold it? What kinds of activities do they want to do? That's what we're doing with the health plan right now. All right. Who's running the research and collecting the data? Because it's fine to get a whole bunch of surveys, but unless somebody's processing it, that's what's great with doing something like SurveyMonkey, because it tabulates it for you. There's actually where you just hit, results, and it prints you out a report of everything, all the results that have happened. But there's also old school people like me. That's actually my first job, was as a statistician for Métis people in Prince George. It was the first of its kind. I think ever done it back in 1991, 1992, I think we did it. And we did like 350 some odd comprehensive surveys. And these surveys were like 60 pages long. We found 350 people that identified as Métis, and it took usually an hour to 2 hours to get through these surveys, and they did them. And it was amazing. So I'm a big believer. I'm still coding back in the old days and things like that. So I still have that experience if anybody's needing that help. And what are the tech considerations? Super important, right? Not just technology. I'm doing some workshops all week in Haida Gwaii. I had a whole bunch of gifts and things like we did. I had a whole bunch of fun little activities happening. Well, what happens is if I have too much video and too much technology running, their internet can't handle it because they don't have a strong enough connection. And if there's any wind or air, it knocks us out. And so it's pointless. So they really need a very non-moving, very linear technical presentation for me. So unfortunately, they don't get all the bells and whistles. So just think about that, not only your tech considerations, but your audience. And then external, who's your target audience? It doesn't always have to be the whole community. It may be a segment of your community. And, that's, again, some other work that we're doing with homelessness. As we started out with a big, huge catch-all, the next ones we're looking at, well, there was a bunch of ideas and everyone's like, I don't have time to go to all these meetings. Well, who's interested in topic A? Who's interested in topic B, topic C? We're going to set up 3 different meetings and you only have to come to that meeting. So, just think about that. If it's external stakeholders, if it's all of you coming together as administrators going, we want to make a pitch to the provincial government. We want more administrator leadership skills training. Okay, well, right. It may be a segment of our administrators that are doing this. Right? Some groups can be engaged at a later time. So you may just prioritize them. You may not be able to do everyone all at the same time because of time constraints or people constraints. Who do you need? Who's the most important to get to right away to get you the results you need? And then groups can be engaged using different tactics, right? You're going to maybe engage the youth versus the elders differently. Maybe they're going to go on a camping trip together and they're going to engage in the same way. Even the way we deal with culture. So I'm working in Chetwynd, and one of the communities, they want to get more language and culture. And they're like, oh, these kids don't want to go to culture camp. And I'm like, yeah, well, okay, what are they interested in? Oh, they're into these zombie games and zombie movies, and they just think it's boring. And I'm like, well, why don't we make Zombie Survivor Apocalypse Camp? They all look at me. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, no, it's culture camp. I'm just going to run around screaming at them. And we do a zombie run in Prince George with our running group, and people love it. I'll run around. They got to make a perimeter. They've got, like, if any of you have seen The Walking Dead, man, that's a game in survival. Well, why can't we make it fun for kids to do this stuff? Or me, for that matter, right? We need to look at engaging people in different ways. That's the other thing. Technology, we look at traditional ways, which are great. We need that too. But we also need to look at the world we're in. What are the resources out there? What are the ways that we can stop our kids from scrolling on their TikTok and on their Instagram and on their Facebook and start watching us? They're role models, they're leaders, right? That to me is why we need to look at different ways of how we get these youth. And that's where the gamifying things like that. Okay. So really important to, and ask questions. Like I said, if it's elders, they may want that person there one-on-one and don't want to be in a group. Some elders love being in a group, right? So you know your communities. And if you don't, make that your first engagement. How do you want us to engage you? How do you want to get your information from us? And say you have done that and they still don't, then you go back and go, we've tried engaging with you this way. It's not working. Why isn't it working? And go from there. So there's a little engagement for you to get into. Key number 5. What resources do you need? This is time to really look at not just money resources. To me, one of the biggest ones, we can find money. There's pots of money out there. A lot of times where our communities get stuck and our leaders get stuck is in the time resources. Timeline is so important. You know, those timelines when they say, oh, we need a proposal tomorrow, funding's open and it's closing in a week, right? Time is something that we cannot buy. So we need to be really clear about that resource there. Okay, so I'll just start with that one. But then we need to look at our physical. Oh, I'm sorry, we got that. The resource of time. Sorry, I jumped ahead on that one. I was really excited and I'm going to move that one up next time because I think to me that is the most important one. How quickly does this need to be completed? How many people? All those types of things, right? Time. The next thing then, okay, staff, people. Is it volunteers? And we could have staff/volunteers. Who's our engagement team? Who is going to do the engagement? Are we going to pull them from other projects? Are we going to hire? When we've done community engagement with treaty, it's always been a separately hired team. We've had the treaty engagement team where that's where their project was. And I know a lot of you have that, so you know what I mean. Some of you just did it as individuals, like we did in Clayton today, where it was more just a smaller team that we worked with. Other teams, I've worked with teams of 5 to 10 people because their nation was bigger, because they're in Vancouver and they've got to go into the States. So also looking at where your people are, right? They're all over the world. So making sure that you know, and that you can get staff out there. Software. So what is it that we need? You like my fancy PowerPoints and you want to do this. What do I need to do that? Who do I need to talk to? Zoom, StreamYard, SurveyMonkey. There's lots of gamification applications out there, and that's something, a whole nother topic. But if you even just look up gamification, it'll start popping information up for you. And there's probably other info around here that we can get you. And then finally, people skills. Public speaking, facilitation, research, report writing, tech. What are the skills that we need to make this come together? All right. Because again, that's a lot of the times we've gotten smart. We start thinking about what our final report is going to look like before we even start engaging. Why? Because that's where you usually spend a lot of money, is on that part of it, the technical things. And you all know how much that layout, report layout, those kind of people, those graphic artists can be. So if you start to get some ideas and do a little bit of the legwork, and it might even be just, I'm going to find other reports that I like the look of the layout of and give that to the designer. We're going to start getting, and another great thing is to have a template in your organization. Instead of trying to make, and that's what I used to, oh, we need to make everyone look like a piece of art. No, you don't. For my company, this is my standard template. This is the way we're going to start making our templates, or we're going to have a template. We're rebranding right now, but we're going to have a standard so that I'm not constantly going, oh, what am I going to do? How am I going to make this fancier? Because that costs time and money, right? That's Camila helps me a lot with that. That costs me dollars every time I do something fancy like this. Is it worthwhile? Yes, but you really need to look at who are the people that can help us do these things. Okay. And looking at what you already have, you probably already have Zoom. Do you need to upgrade your Zoom, right? A lot of people, that's funny, they'll get stuck in Zoom. Why? Because they don't regularly just upgrade it in their system, shut it down and update the update. It could also be, if you have a free account, you may need a professional account. Do you need more than one administrator, right, of your Zoom account if you're doing it a lot? Same with StreamYard. That's a free, there's a paid version. What do you need of that? YouTube, right? Do you need a YouTube page for your community? I encourage communities more and more to do that. Why? Because it's a safe way for people to engage without, because our people are nervous about it. I don't know if I want to be on that, right? So it's funny how many people, when now that I've started streaming from my Zooms into my Facebook, how many people are watching that I had no idea and that are actually commenting on it, where they wouldn't show up in Zoom because they didn't want to be in the hot seat. So, and there's Zoom, also in Zoom, there's meetings versus webinars. We're in a webinar format right now where we don't see you. You don't have to show up, right? You can do it in a secret way, or you can do it in a meeting way where everyone shows up. So just some different things to think about as you're going through this. Key 6, we are rounding closer to the end here, my friends. Thank you so much for your patience and thanks for all your comments and questions. I love it. I'm going to be coming back here. I'm going to get through and then we're going to go to question and answer. So don't worry if you haven't, I'll be getting our team here to working on it. So this is cool. All right. So key number 6. Alrighty. Measuring the effectiveness. How do you measure the success of your engagement process? It's great if people tell you great job, which is kind of what we're going on. We're hoping this is kind of our informal engagement, is to get engagement for you throughout. What did you think of today? What could have been better? What would you have liked to know more about? It's just not to say, oh, Zan, because that's why a lot of people, no, it's to help us know what is the next webinar going to look like for you. So a lot of us are afraid of getting feedback. I know for me, growing up in trauma and things like that, feedback, I never want that. But really, it's what's going to help grow and make our engagement stronger and more powerful. So how do we measure the effectiveness of community engagement? So how do we do that? One, provide feedback mechanisms for participants, such as surveys, polls, physical comment box, website comment box, having an email address that people can just drop comments to. I really like having comment boxes where it says, what's the problem? What should we do about it? Rather than just what's the problem? Because I think that's a lot of what happens in engagement is people tell us, well, this didn't work. But we never go, what would be better? How could we have changed your mind? Same with treaty. What I like to do is I like to go back and do a wraparound after when we've had somebody, because we've had communities vote no. And then the community will go back to the drawing board. And what my first thing as a consultant is to say, we need to go engage the community on why they said no. And people go, oh, let's not talk about it. I don't want to look at it. It's embarrassing when it gets, no. How dare we go into another vote if we don't even know what we did wrong the first go wrong round? Some of us will know, but a lot of us don't. A lot of the ones I've worked out, the big thing where they said no was the off-reserve population wasn't consulted. And that's where a huge number of our people reside. So that's what I want you to think about, right? Like, how are you connecting with those people? And are you using feedback ongoing? Do you have exit interviews when staff leave your organization when they quit and you don't know why? I want exit interviews. Go talk to them. Why did they leave? But we don't. We usually just move on to the next person and just attribute it to, oh, they must have had a better opportunity. No, maybe they left because it was crazy, right? But you don't know it. So we need to start having hard conversations in a gentle way, right? We can have hard conversations without being hard on each other. And to me, that's what successful engagement is being able to talk about those topics that have held us hostage, that have not allowed us to move forward, but we've been too scared because we're not allowed to do it. And in a lot of ways, and I call them the drama llamas. And what I say is those are the people that go and dictate, well, I'm mad, so everybody better be scared. And so the rest of us stop engaging when really they're scared. Or, well, you guys never do anything for us. No, I don't like it. Well, what do you want it? I don't know, not this way. Well, I don't know. This is the way it's going to be then. How do you want it? That's what I love doing, is really not confronting with care. What is it that you need from us? You can't just keep saying this doesn't work, because the fact is you're part of the problem then, right? We need to have the hard conversations. If we aren't engaging well, what are we doing wrong? What could we do better? And what could you do better? We've sent it out. Here's a record of all the times we've engaged with you, Francine. Sorry, if anyone's out there, Francine, just joking. It's one of my names I just pick up. That's another way. We've engaged with you 24 times with that community member. No, you haven't. Yes, we have. We've kept a record of it, right? People think I'm a junkie for data because I'm a statistician. No, I'm about making sure that we have the systems in place to say, so that nobody can break down our processes. You get to hold your head up and go, I totally engaged and was awesome at it. All right. So that's what you do. You want to have a mix of quantitative and qualitative data. So how many times, how many of you have liked this thing, but also what are the stories? What could we do differently? How many of you liked us communicating on Zoom? What are some other ways we can communicate besides Zoom? Right? So there's a difference between qualitative and quantitative data. So you want a mixture of it. But there's also numerical, verbal, and even written. So you guys know you've had those graphic artists come into your community. I do a lot with vision boards. So I actually love doing organizational vision boards because not everybody's great with the words. Well, let's go cut some magazines up and we want you to make as a team. That's one of my team building, and you could do it as a community. Let's create a picture of all the things that we want in our community. Let's go through these magazines, rip, and glue them onto this collage that's going to be a representation of what we want from our community. All right. Doesn't that get you excited instead of just wah, 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 let's go do another meeting that nobody's going to attend? Let's get people excited. All right. I'm doing lots of virtual vision boards right now. Why? Because our people want to dream again. Our staff need to dream. Our leaders need to dream. But let's make it fun. Why does change have to be painful? I think change is exciting. It's fun. It can be hard. But if we do it together, oh my gosh, and you and I show up with a positive attitude about it every day, we can't help but rub off on the people around us. All right. Develop a strategy to review the feedback and incorporate it into the next engagement. I just told you that. Don't worry about getting slapped. That's what I say. To me, thank goodness they told me. I'd rather them tell me, take a chance on me and come back to my next engagement than never come back to my engagement again because they thought it was boring. All right. That's why we need your feedback, because we don't want you to avoid and go, oh no, they're bringing that Zan girl in again. We don't want her. The First Nations Public Service Secretary and the Technology Council, they want to know what you think, because that's going to help them bring in more powerful presenters, topics, content for you, because that's what they're here to do. They're that empowering agency, the two of them, that want to give you the tools to help you engage more effectively with your communities, with your stakeholders, with your clients, with your customers, right? And then important to report back the findings to the community. So even that, I love to go back and say, hey, you guys, thanks for the feedback. This is what you said about our last webinar. I'm going to change this, and this is what we're going to do about it. Tell them what the feedback, but then also, these are the changes we're going to make based on your feedback. Like, I love that. Nothing is more empowering than to go, oh, my say-so had something. It had an impact. Yes, I am going to be. You call on me anytime, Zan. I'm at your engagement session because I've built faith and trust, right? That actually, I'm actually acting on what the community said, okay? And honestly, you want to do it because it promotes transparency. Even if it was negative, people are like, oh, how do we spin it? Don't. You need to go, hey guys, and I love humor. You really handed our butt into us in a handbasket. Thank you for that. We needed that. We've been walking, doing our own thing. Thank you for the feedback. This is how we're going to incorporate your feedback into the future sessions. Your community goes, yeah, we'll see. But the fact is, you're going to shock them because you are going to incorporate it into the next session. And you're going to say, thank you, Frank and Francine. Thank you, Frank and Francine, for giving us, if they want it, if they did in a meeting, we really appreciate you. And people go, well, I thought that too. Oh, they always, then say it. That's what we need. We need to get powerful. To me, our true and one superpower is our voice. Well, we have two. Emotional intelligence is our second superpower, but our voice is really what our superpower is, and being able to use it to get our point and what our needs are across. That's the magic. That's our medicine, our good medicine that we can share. All right. So that's super important. And I want it to be an ongoing process. Don't make it a one-shot time. Find a way to make it an ongoing mechanism. If you've got that box in the office, you make it somebody's task every week to go through that box, to make notes of it. Maybe go back on feedback. Hey, you guys, we had some comments in the comment box this week. I'm going to put them on Facebook, and we're going to post them on the organizational website to show people that we are actually listening to them and reacting. And you know what? You may have to say, we'd love to have a water slide in our community, but unfortunately, our budget, we don't have that on our budget. But actually, we've got somebody working on that, and it is on our to-do list. It doesn't say you're going to do it, but at least someone goes, they actually read my thing about having a water slide, right? I know it seems silly. That's happened in my community. People are like, Zad, don't encourage them. They're going to ask us for things they can't have. And I go, well, honestly, say we were going to have a water slide. How long do you think it would take? And our ECDev guy goes, 20 years. And I go, okay, let's put it on the long-term goal then, 20 years. And I put it up on the board. And he looks at me and he goes, seriously? And I go, seriously? He goes, well, it won't take us 20 years. I go, how long would it take us? Well, now we've got like a 7-year water slide plan on our list. And our ECDev people are like, okay, because it doesn't mean they have to do it tomorrow. The community members aren't expecting it tomorrow, but the ECDev is really starting to go, you know what? This might be an idea because they have time to think about it now. So that's why you want to keep that ongoing feedback process regularly for people. All right. And those were our main thing. Make sure I got all my notes here. Oh, and another huge one. If you didn't use their feedback, thank you for the notes. Why? Why didn't you use it? Because a big thing is about even power, like, right, with all the development, people say, well, why didn't they do this in our community for power? Well, for us, it's, oh, we don't have enough sun. We don't have enough wind. We don't, like some of the different. Same with treaty. Some people go, well, what's the difference between self-governing, like INAC or in effect status quo and treaty? Why would you do it? Well, there's a specialist, Bill Stipdonk, who had done this amazing 3-part thing, which basically you could slot yourself in. There's certain reasons why certain communities are going to fare better in certain categories than other communities. And he kind of made a flow chart and it was amazing. And I was like, wow, right? But not everybody fits into the same boat. So we can tell our communities why it wasn't incorporated. All right, awesome. You guys are amazing. Thank you for your patience. Hopefully you're finding this beneficial and helpful. This is, like I said, you're getting my past 28 years experience, and Camila's in 90 minutes on speed 10. So my apologies if it's going like drinking water out of a fire hose, but my attitude is I never know if we're going to get to cross paths again. So I want to make sure that I wring my brain out and give you every last little bit of info that I can. So we're going to dive into, we've talked a lot about these examples, so it's going to be time for some questions here, but we want to talk about 3 real life examples of what it looks like. I'm going to be a little bigger here. There you go. Of projects that we worked on in community engagement and just some different things that we happened. So I had mentioned, several years ago, I had worked intensively for probably about 1.5 years with the Comox First Nation. And what I was a consultant brought in to support the home engagement team. The home visit team is what we called them. And what it was basically they hired people. They wanted to go out and get info, collect info. They all had a nice little flip chart and there was info that they were providing, but really it was to ask the community, what do you think about this? What are we missing? It was to get questions from them so we could add it to our frequently asked questions section. So we had a frequently asked questions. So that's what we were doing. We would send it. We wanted to go to the people that were totally against it, the people that were totally for it, but mostly against, because they helped us really get down to what are we missing here? What are the questions we need to answer for people? We had a community champion. So they were all, there was a staff member from the organization that oversaw them. I did the training. She oversaw the day-to-day because I would travel back and forth from Prince George. And then we hired a team of 5 people from the community members. And it was an interesting strategy because there was a couple of very vocal people against treaty and no one wanted to hire them. And they were like, Zan, they're just going to kibosh us out in the community. And I said, you know what? I think we should, because they applied for the job. And I said, I think we should hire them. And I go, because this isn't a matter, this is supposed to be a neutral, this is supposed to be information gathering. This isn't an election where we're trying to win people over to our side. Because if it is, then it really is an engagement. This is more of a sell job that we're doing. So we really need to be careful. Yes, we do. If you're for treaty and you're working in the treaty process, then maybe you need to, or economic development. But really, when it's true engagement, we need to hear both sides of it. We need to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? So to me, and what the interesting thing was, we hired her. She was shocked. But the thing was, she's had such high integrity. She would not take money from the treaty team and go sink them at the same time. So between us, she did nothing. And everyone would go, she didn't work and she got paid. Yeah. Well, actually, she did work, because what she did is she never went around and talked bad about treaty after that. She would just say, if anyone asked her, she would say, go tell them that. Go make sure you tell the treaty team that. I'll pass that on to you. Like, she just became a total conduit for the people who she had on her side that had info, and she passed it on. And she was one of the most amazing team members that we had. So I want you to think about it, right? To me, it's about the people that have the ethics, that are going to. I don't mind the people that are loud and scary sometimes, but I want to make sure that their heart is there for the best thing in the community, and that they're not there to do a sell job either. We're here to be neutral and to get information from people, for our people to help make the best decision for themselves, our organization, right? Whether it's our stakeholders, if we're going to be making a decision, whether it's your board of directors, right? What are we doing? How are we engaging our membership regardless? And again, just, trying to use a lot of different language for you guys so that hopefully it reflects your, however it works for you. Okay. So if very First Nations heavy, I know that's a lot of my experience, but know that when I use these words are interchangeable. All right. And that was it. It was an integrated approach. We used community engagement. We used drop-in sessions where we had people come together, and we had 5 group questions, and we got them to do, and we had one writer. So then a group would sit at a family. We had families where we did family home visits, where they got to sit at a table and just talk with their family members. We had virtual. We had, just a lot of different ways, surveys for people to get involved in the process. And it was really exciting. And they went from, and just to show you the power of engagement, I think they went from the first initial vote they had was just to check things out. It was like 35%. They ended up going and voting in their agreement in principle, and their next stage is at like 77%. And what it was is there was a lot of no's. But the fact is, we had done such a good job of engaging them that they said, you know what, I can't, all in good faith, stop this. I can't, this is going to stop my granny from getting the elders home and all these different things. People were actually, who were still against it, were able to vote for it because they realized that there was enough transparency that they were like, I'm willing to take a chance here as long as we keep this level of transparency. And this is one where there was there was a lot of history about the community that I didn't know about. In the Comox history, the Comox language has totally been lost. And again, my apologies if there's any Comox people on there, but, and they've got, they kind of united with another community that was many, many, many moons ago, a Kwakiutl community. So now there's a mixture of Kwakiutl and Comox tradition in the community, because the Kwakiutl family brought a lot of their traditions in, and it's amazing. It's such a beautiful and vibrant community. But that was when I didn't know, where there was a lot of kind of holding back, because there was this maybe a bit of fear, like, what happens? This isn't an official government Indian Act thing. Like, will we be out where? But because the community came together so nicely that everybody realized they were still going to be a part of the fabric at the end of the day. So that's a simplified version, but that was a historical thing I did not find out until near the end of our engagement. And it made so much of an impact in the way, because what happened is I started engaging more gently with the family, because everyone's like, don't talk to them. They're like, oh, they're again. No, they just wanted to make sure that their voice was heard and they were a part of instead of apart from. So that's what good engagement can do for you. Example number 2, Claytley. We talk a lot about it. We've worked with their treaty. They went to twice. They did not vote yes for their own many reasons. We feel that we did an amazing job on it. We did the best job that we could do with the time we had. And there's a whole bunch of things that Camila and I didn't get in our team. We had a very small team to undertake this work. We had a very short time frame to undertake the work. We didn't have time to engage, to really say what were all the problems that were, and not it, but just as a team, I want to give you a strategy that it isn't all roses and we don't do it always perfect. We didn't have time to go ask, why did you guys vote no last time? What do we need to do differently? We just had to hit the ground running. So the way we did this, so just to show you, it's a spectrum. You're not always going to be able to have 5 team members dedicated to it, all the money in the world, whatever your strategy is, okay? Whatever the message you're trying to get out. So monthly newsletter went out, social media regularly, very high engagement with that. We traveled to off-reserve community members. We went to Vancouver. We went to Kamloops. We went all over the place. I think we even dipped into the States at one point. And then there was a dedicated website. It wasn't just an attachment to the Clately Today, because people, the engagement wasn't necessarily great there. We wanted this to be front and center. This is where the information is, so that nobody could say they did not get it. And it was a 2-year community engagement, but really getting into that and doing the home engagement just didn't form part of this. So really, I think we learned a lot from this one, and there's a lot of juiciness that we could get that we will bring to our next engagement session. So pretty exciting stuff though. And we did a lot of video and live streaming too. When we were doing the in-person, we would be live streaming them out. So if you couldn't attend the meeting, you could still watch it. So that's a huge part of, even when you're doing in-person meetings, is making sure that you've got that video camera on it, so that people out in the world can see it as well. Example number 3, and I've spoken about this, and I promise we're going to get you out of here on time. Thank you for your patience. Example number 3, Prince George Engagement for Urgent Solutions. This was a homelessness forum that we did. We have, like everywhere, an exploding, homeless and at risk of homeless issue in our community. And it's heartbreaking and it's scary. We also have a huge opioid issue in our community, like everywhere else. So we were tasked with bringing together people that were already Zoomed out, that we tried to do a full day and a half on Zoom. We got no uptake from it. So then what we decided is, okay, what are we going to do? We got to make it more, we called them micro sessions, micro engagement sessions. So what we did, and it was because we couldn't meet in person, we had a lot of people say, you need to talk to the homeless people. Well, last year or 2 years ago, we did an open house at the Friendship Center, where it was all of our homeless and at risk. They got to come in and do it. And I facilitated, and we had breakout groups at the Friendship Center. We couldn't do that. And there was nowhere for us to be able to gather people. So we had to take the experts who were working on the ground in the field. So we brought them together for 3 days, a Monday, a Wednesday, and a Friday, from 9 to 11. We did a quick 5 to 10 minute introduction in the morning. And then we had 2 main questions about homelessness. What do you think we need about housing security? And then the other one, I think it was about safe opioid use. And that was it, 2 questions. We had a half-hour, and we broke them out into groups, half-hour facilitated session here, half-hour facilitated session in the afternoon. Boom, everybody was gone. You got to choose Monday or Wednesday. You didn't have to go to both, you could. People went, oh my gosh, this was amazing. It was fast and furious. We took the data, and the facilitators were actually typing and rounding up the data. So then we brought the results from Monday, presented them to the group on Wednesday. They got to build. We did a quick little presentation. They built on it. Friday, we brought everybody back together and went, these were the 10 ideas that came up that seemed the best bang for our buck right now. We're going to break you out into 2 groups. You're going to talk about the first 5 for a half an hour, take a little break you out into the half. We got the most amazing data, the feedback that we got, the partnerships, the people that came to the table that never would have came for a day and a half, came for those micro sessions. And the fact is, the data was so focused. There wasn't time for people to give big table speeches, where people, we go to an all-day meeting and there's 3 hours of opening remarks. I'm like, seriously, we don't have time for that. And to us, that's what we've coined these, our micro sessions, because we realize that you don't have time to engage in these. So we want to get you in and get you out. The time for big speeches is over. Engagement, people want to get down to business. And as I mentioned, it was a super quick turnaround time for results. That was a huge goal for us. And like I said, it really turned out well. Make sure I missed everything here. Oh, and we brought in some guest speakers on homelessness that were working in the thing, but we need to have an opening for this. And no, we need, and people were shocked. Even the service providers who thought they knew everything about what was going on would hear from people that were working at the needle exchange. We're working with people that had a bucket outside of their organization because there was no public facilities, and we're allowing people to use this bucket because where else are they going to go? And right, the shock, our facilitators, like, it was such an amazing experience for us to work together. And also being able to have a diverse team. So we didn't wait. We had a copywriter, we had an editor and a graphic designer ready to go. And that's what I mean about thinking about, we already had an idea. We already had the graphic designer laying out our report before we even started it. So realistically, we had a report out in a week afterwards and went right back to the funders so they could start acting on it. All right, so just a couple of examples. I know you have tons, even better examples than that. So that is my presentation. Thank you so much, everyone. I am going to open it up. I don't know, Camila, if you want to start this off, if you got a few. Thank you, Camila.
Yes. So there's two questions that have been asked, and I'll go in the order that they were asked. The first from the Q&A box, are there any information resources out there for training elders on technology use?
Well, you know what? That's an interesting question. That's a great one. And you know what? I'm not going to try to pretend that I know the answer to that. Julia, I don't know if you have any comments on that, not to put you on the hot seat, my friend, or if any of our technology members. What I'm going to say is that's part of what these sessions are starting to build. I don't have a for sure yes or no on that. We're going to make a note of that because I think, Camila, that's something that we may be able to start working on, is looking at it. I think right now, a lot of organizations are training their elders on the fly. I think this is an excellent topic. And I'm sure that the Technology Council and the First Nations public service sector have already talked about that. We're actually just going to maybe note your name and we're going to pass that on just so we have a note of it. And let us work on that for you. Let us have a look at that because I think that's a great thing. And not sure if anyone's totally engaged in that, but that's maybe something. Camila and I are problem solvers. We like to help get in there and solve some problems. So I think that's another great webinar for us. Thank you.
Thanks, Anne. And question number 2 from the chat box. How do you avoid being annoying or nagging folks to the point that they may unsubscribe or block your communications?
Wow. So that's where, okay, there's a whole bunch of different looks, and I'll ask Camila as well after if you want to put some. So the first thing I would say is looking at your own communication strategy, right? I always say, look inward first. Am I being annoying, right? I have to look at myself. I'm pretty hyperactive. My style isn't for everybody. And I know I'm not saying anything to you, but that's what I always say. Look into yourself, check yourself, right? That first step. Why am I communicating? How many times have I communicating? What are we doing? Like when you said, that's what I would say. The other thing is, what communications do you want from me? You guys have all subscribed to a newsletter. And all of a sudden now what's really cool, before they would just send you a dog's breakfast of everything. And you'd go, oh, I'm sick of this. I'm unfollowing. Now what I notice is one of two things I get. One is, hey, we noticed you haven't opened one of our emails in a while. Or do you still want the info? What is it that you don't want from us? Right? So they've started asking you questions about what content before you unsubscribe. So for me, that's something I'm going to start doing with our team, is because we've got a big mailing. We've got like 1,000 people on our mailing list and people are unsubscribing. I don't know why, but also they probably haven't opened their emails and they just keep getting them and going, duh, I'm not opening the last 28 you sent me. And they'll get bitter. So that's why it's really important to get in there. That's why it's just that they don't care. It's like, they're like, oh my God, you don't care, right? You haven't bothered. You don't even know that I'm not opening your emails. You don't know that, right? Care about me. So as people sending out info, we really have to be aware of what our open rates are. So that's another topic. But how are you sending out your emails? Are you using a like ConvertKit, MailChimp, any of these systems, Constant Contact, where you're using an email system that's sending out emails? Well, that'll tell you what's your open rate, what's your bounce rate, who's getting your emails, who's not. You really need to keep track of that. And then reach out. Why are you not opening our emails, Camila? We love you. Okay. So, so that's my short answer to that. Camila, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I do. I'll share some brief comments. And I see there's a couple more questions here in the Q&A. So Julia, if we have to end the session right at 11:30, please let us know, but I'd love to share some thoughts here. So similar to what Zandra said, I think it's important to go back to your overall communication strategy and see who is the target audience. So Julia is saying we can take a few extra minutes. That's fantastic. Thank you. So who is your target audience for your different tactics? So if you're sending out an electronic newsletter, does that have to go to everybody in the community? Or do you want it to make it more specific based on different groups within your community? Having an unsubscribe option, as Zandra mentioned, is always a good idea. And as well, there are lots of features with electronic newsletter software so that you can make it actually personalized. So instead of saying, here's an update, the email will say, hey, Zandra, here's the information for this month. So making it personal as well is a great tactic. But I do want to leave time for these next two questions and keep us moving along here. So from the Q&A, how do you keep your sessions authentic when you want to ensure culture and traditional protocols within your engagement?
Well, you know, that's a lot of your agenda. Even when we did, because I know it's a tough balance, right? But I think going into even knowing what, so for the engagement, I'll go back because we had a very short amount of time to do the homelessness engagement, the community solutions, urgent solutions. What it was is I talked to our elder. We have an elder, you know, that Clayton Tanay sends out to everything. And I basically went and offered a gift and said, I know that your opening is generally like this. This is the time frame that we have. This is what the intent. So I gave her the background of what we were doing. She went, oh, no problem. Because for her, she didn't need to make a big speech. Once she realized we had time constraints on the topic, she said, Zandra, and she ended up doing an opening that she usually spends 20 minutes doing. She did it in 4 minutes. And she had, again, opened it up saying, folks, normally my openings are this way, but this topic is too important for us to hold off time anymore. We must get going. And everyone was like, thank you so much, and very respectful. So to me, and that was it, is I wear my heart on my sleeve as a facilitator. So when you say, how do you be authentic? You show up like me, not as hyper as me, but really saying, you know what, folks, normally our cultural protocols would look like this. We only have this much time for you. And this topic is such a burning importance to everyone. We need to get down to business. So again, to me, that's what it is. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I don't know how else to be authentic. I don't know how else is and do some people slap me? Do some people make fun of me? Yeah, but I don't care. My message is too important for the community to hear, for me to worry about all those negative, the people that are blocking me. And you know what, at the end of the day, that's kind of the crappy thing, because they're only hurting themselves when they block you as well. Sorry, back to the person getting blocked. So, but that to me, hopefully that helps. And I don't want to belabor it too much. I'll get to this other one. Camille, I'll just read this one. How do I get people, and Camille, if you have a point, we'll just run back to it. But how do I get people engaged when we don't have the budget for door prizes? When we have door prizes, we have tons of persons attending. Okay, well, geez. So what I would say, is there any way that you can give digital prizes? So what I do is you can Google free workbook or things like that, or goal settings or tools. Like there are coloring books now. You know, everybody does the coloring and the mandalas and things that you can do. You can actually go download those free. In my group, I have a lot of free activities. I don't give stuff out because I have to ship it out in my free group. So what I do is I give them free resources, a workbook, a journal, an e-thing. The other thing is, maybe is it a service that can be provided? Is there like somebody that maybe that you can do where you go, well, hey, we're going to get maybe our janitorial staff are going to go and rake up your yard for you, and they normally wouldn't. Is there something that you can provide in kind, in-house? Because yeah, big TV's nice, but are you kidding me? Somebody's going to come and rake my yard for me and I don't have to do it? Sure. So I don't know. Those would be some of my suggestions. The other thing is to reach out to organizations. So for example, we just did who was it that just did was it Clayton Tanay? One of the community, I'm thinking about, they did a big community event, a Christmas event. Well, they go to a bunch of partners in town and say, we've got a Christmas event coming. We'd love to do some door prizes. Will you donate some prizes? So they've hit and they get prizes from all these different tool companies and different places. You'd be amazed how many places, when you tell them we're doing a youth forum, do you got anything you could donate for door prizes? Oh my gosh, like I got 150 of the recycle bags that are like, what do they charge you, $1? I got 150 of those free from Canadian Tire. So just some of those things that you could look at. But that's what I would do. Reach out to your partners, ask them, do you guys have any swag that we could give out, right? Do you have anything with logos on it? We'd love that. Who doesn't love a logo? So just some ideas for you there. And I just saw, okay, and I just saw somebody took, okay, I'm going to look up here. I just saw something. Elders training. Okay, thank you. I'm going to look here. I just want to read this because I saw somebody popped it up. I'm just trying to say, can the info founder go? Yes, we will make sure, Molly, we're going to look into it because you know what? There may not be any. You may have helped create a new thing for all of us as organizations to focus on. So not to worry, we're going to check on that. So, okay, there's been news stories of schools providing older students with gym credit to go out and mow lawns, etc. They could connect with door prizes too, right? So that's it. That's what I would say is take together a brainstorming group, go, we can't afford door prizes. What can we do? We just gave you 3 or 4 ideas. You got summer students. Can they go do something for as a door prize? We've got 1 hour of childcare for you free whenever you want it, on call. You need it, we got a person for you. So time to me is worth way more than a physical object a lot of times. So if you can free up people's time or money, that's a big gift to them. All right. Thank you so much, Marissa. Thank you, everybody. Oh my gosh, I don't want to belabor this. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying, who is able to stay late for us. I know that this isn't, if you weren't, if anybody hasn't watched us, do not worry, there will be a recording. We've got it on our to-do list to look into the elders training a bit more. And yeah, so that's what I just want to say. Thank you to everyone. Julia, I know that you're here. Would you like to say any closing remarks on behalf of your organization?
Sure, just on behalf of the First Nations Public Service Secretariat and as the First Nations Technology Council, so FNTC, we just like to thank Zandra Ross and Camilla Sanchez for being here today. Zandra, you're an amazing facilitator. Thank you for your energy. And as you have both mentioned, these resources will be available. It has been recorded. We'll get it uploaded on the FNTC's Streamin website. So that's streamin.technologycouncil.ca. So we'll also email all of the attendees out of both of the last 2 webinars. So this week and last week, we'll make sure that all of the attendees get that information when the recordings are available. You can access all of the previous Streamin webinars from the First Nations Technology Council on that same website as well. So there's some really wonderful webinars there for you to access. So again, thank you all for joining us. I guess unless anybody else has, Sandra, do you have anything else you wanted to say, or we can kind of wrap up?
Just go out, engage, engage, engage. Don't be afraid. Thank you. I didn't get my last slide up, but just want to say thank you so much to the First Nations Public Service Sector and the First Nations Technology Council. As a consultant, as somebody who's been like everybody, all you administrators, I want to thank both of you organizations for giving us this venue to be able to learn these skills and to be able to up our community engagement strategy. Thank you so much, Julia and Selena, for this opportunity. And
I echo all of that. Thank you so much, Zandra. Bye, everybody. Have a wonderful afternoon. Hope you all can have some sunshine. Bye.